Hi, I'm Susan Evans from susanevans.org, and we are studying Exploring Government by the Knotgrass Company. Today we will find out who is in the line for presidential succession. Yes, who becomes president after the president dies? And then, if the vice president dies, who becomes president then? And so on. Take a look. When the president dies, the vice president becomes president. When the vice president dies, the Speaker of the House becomes president. When the Speaker of the House dies, the President pro tempore becomes president. When the President pro tempore of the Senate dies, the Secretary of State becomes president. When the Secretary of State dies, the Secretary of the Treasury becomes president. When the Secretary of the Treasury dies, the Secretary of Defense becomes president. When the Secretary of Defense dies, the Attorney General becomes president. When the Attorney General dies, the Secretary of the Interior becomes president. When the Secretary of the Interior dies, the Secretary of Agriculture becomes president. When the Secretary of Agriculture dies, the Secretary of Commerce becomes president. When the Secretary of Commerce dies, the Secretary of Labor becomes president. When the Secretary of Labor dies, the Secretary of Health and Human Services becomes president. When the Secretary of Health and Human Services dies, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development becomes president. When the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development dies, the Secretary of Transportation becomes president. When the Secretary of Transportation dies, the Secretary of Energy becomes president. When the Secretary of Energy dies, the Secretary of Education becomes president. When the Secretary of Education dies, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs becomes president. When the Secretary of Veterans Affairs dies, the Secretary of Homeland Security becomes president. Hopefully he won't die, because there's nobody else on the list. And there you have it. I'm Susan Evans from susanevans.org. Thanks for watching.